Good afternoon to you. So, the lecture is titled Right Learning and Digital Health, Curriculum, Career, Character Choices. Because your brain tracks the way they wire from your early days determine what curricular potential you will have and what curricular inclination you will have, what kind of subjects you will like, whether you will like mathematics or hate mathematics, depends on how you wired your brain. So you get a genome from your parents, so there is a genetic predisposition. However, now we know the epigenetic factors that you observe or experience from your mother's womb and after birth will begin to affect your potential. So it is best to develop your 7 brain tracks in the way you would best fulfill the potential you have in your genome. So let me get to the theory of it. Responding to inattention, impulsivity and hyperactivity. When I move I had to move this, isn't it? Yeah. Inattention, impulsivity, hyperactivity are the 3 cornerstones, the triad of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So the underlying theme of my lecture is also that ADHD is diagnosed far too much. There are different degrees of inattention, hyperactivity and impulsivity in kids to varying degrees. Attention has a span, so by the time of 8 years, your attention span must be 40 minutes. But under the age of 8 years, your attention span should develop to 30 minutes from your birth to going to school. Attention span must develop. Then there's attention depth and there's an attention absorbing intensity. What are the 3 things I said? Attention span, attention depth and absorbing intensity. So if you are on the pixel screen too much, you will disturb all those 3 and you will not be able to give attention for 40 minutes by the time you are 8 years old, and that attention span getting shorter will affect your study patterns as well as how much you can do in 1 hour, how much you can absorb in 1 hour. So basic thing to take home is, if a child is on the digital screen too much, then the child's attention span and depth run down. So before the age of 5, no digital screen. Tell your neighbor, before the age of 5, no digital screen. Yeah, you have to confess that. What you confess gets impressed in your inside. Please do this. There is an interactive lecture. Tell your neighbor, before the age of 5, no digital screen. Yeah, I know that your neighbor is over the age of 5, but not too soon you will have a child and that child will be under the age of 5. Okay? So no digital screen before the age of 5. If you give digital screen before the age of 5, child's language will scuttle. So I'm also director Colombo Empathic Learning Center, and out of the children who get referred to me by my students, fellow doctors, colleagues and teachers and schools, 1/3 of those who come have come with language scramble. Because when the child is given the digital screen, language tracks get blurred off, because language is related to how the child moves fingers, and this finger moving activity, as you know, children are given clay holding, clay molding, building blocks, dolls and whatnot, and even crawling with the fingers and toes, all that adds to the development of the proprioception. You have heard the word proprioception? Proprioception is this joint sense. You have to answer me, because I'm used to teaching medical students, so I don't know how deep to pitch my talk so that we all are on the same wavelength. Proprioception is joint sense. Joint sense. So when the child is allowed to develop joint sense, that is related to child's speech and language writing. So when a child is given to draw whatever he wants to draw with friction, so the best combination is black cartridge and chalk. That's why pastels are given, because the child begins to write whatever he wants with friction, and that has a good impression on the brain tracts that are learning to speak also. Learning speech and handwriting, language go together. As you know, only human beings have speech and language and handwriting, correct? So we must keep that bright and active. And if you scramble that before the age of 5, you lose a lot in speech, and speech is related to your IQ development. More you learn language, more you speak, and more you use your fingers and toes from very young days, more brain bright you will be. So the smart screen is a misnomer. It becomes a stupid screen if you overuse it. Will you tell that to your neighbor? Smart screen becomes a stupid screen if you indulge it too much. Even at your age, it's the same. So responding to inattention, impulsivity, hyperactivity. Impulsivity is these children do things without thinking. So we were taught paninta pera, very good, sita balanu, and these children have got used to sitannata pera, panala balanu. So this risk-taking, peril, thrill experiments go on because of the overdrive of the digital screen, and when it moves to gambling, sexual misadventures, taking thrills and not waiting for the bus to pass but jump in front, all this have an effect. Even sports injuries increase with digitally addicted kids because they don't gauge the risk in sports. Even rugby has risk, isn't it? So they are prone to injuries. They run and in front of a wall or before steps, they don't slow down. So kids who are digitized are prone to injuries as well. So we have to recover their childhood, relearn, retain, remanage. And my particular research advanced area was developing empathic remedial procedures without giving pharmaceuticals, particularly without giving methylphenidate, to get their brain tracts into order. How many of you have heard of methylphenidate? Yeah. That's okay. Maybe you haven't come to... will they hear of methylphenidate in their course? No. So they will not hear of pharmaceuticals because it's a psychology course.
The nursing students probably.
Big pardon?
The nursing students probably.
Probably will. Okay. Okay. So I know how to pitch it. Thank you. So pathophysiology of digital plus, digital setup for addictions and remedial measures. This is the content of my talk. We'll do as much as possible, and midway you have been given a form to fill up. We'll fill it up interactively, so my research project gets new data from a cohort of students in the SLIT. All right, so this whole talk has digital stimulation, dopamine serotonin curves, top-down versus bottom-up regulation, that is prefrontal cortex. Then curricular potential and 7 brain tracts, pixel-driven neurotoxicity, attention span and early remedies, food management, digital effect on learning, medical effects of digital stimulation, digital effects on sleep, power up, right use of music, and the effect on the screen, pushing kids to dopamine-driven addictions, which ends up with students wanting to take ice, crystal meth, amphetamines and so on. So the digital addiction pushes them to other addictions, because addictions go the same route. Digital stimulation has 5 components. Time length of exposure to LED screen. So when you are on a LED screen more than 25 minutes with fast activity, not Microsoft Word or PowerPoint, but gaming and so on, already your brain is changing through the pixel effect on the retina. Then smartphones and other gadgets have higher PPI. Have you heard the word PPI? pixels per inch on the screen. So for your online studies, it is better to use a laptop than using gadgets. This is particularly true for A-level, O-level students who are now all the time on online tuition programs. They have to be taught how to be studying online without getting digitization, which is part of my talk today. The rate of pixel change in a cartoon frame begins to affect the brain more. Intensity and variability of sound and color. So some kids say, when I listen to music, I can sit in one place and study. Yes, you will sit in one place because of music, but you will not study. Music stimulates the temporal lobe, and you have to do your studies from your prefrontal cortex. So doing music or listening to music while studying works against studying. Can we have a vote on that? I understood that. Yeah, now because we haven't had elections for some time, we are going to vote today, okay? On these good things. All right, thank you for your interactive response. Then time of exposure after 6 p.m. affects the brain more, because after 6 p.m. melatonin, the brain hormone, goes to work and adjusts the brain for the next day's program while committing data in the RAM memory into permanent memory. So a lot of brain activity, useful brain activity happens after 6 p.m. and if you ruin your brain with a lot of digital activity after 6 p.m., you will wake up next day feeling that you did not have enough sleep, feeling you are not rested, not remembering your studies. So younger fellows say, teacher is stupid, school is stupid, history is stupid. Have you heard this from your brother or sister? Have you? Have you heard it from yourself? Yes. So because when they wake up in the morning, they can't remember what they have studied. So I'll come to that. In your study process, you have to allow your data to get into the permanent memory, and the screen will interfere with it. Don't be multitasking while you are studying. Study in one posture in the same place, and preferably don't have LED lights where you study. LED lights have blue frequency, higher blue frequency, that interferes with memory and the action of melatonin. Can we have a vote on that? I understood that. So sometimes homes have LED lights fit to the ceiling in a non-removable way, but in your study corner, try to not have LED light, okay? Sleep deprivation happens. Preserve screen time for essential study as much as possible. This is a simple neuron. You must have seen this before. Every neuron has a receptor ending, and that receptor will be having different neurochemical transmitters. The two most important for prefrontal cortex study tracks are dopamine and serotonin, but at the same time, glutamate, oxytocin, GABA, they all play important support roles. I will get to that a little more details. So you are familiar with this serotonin, you are familiar? Yeah, some call it the happy hormone. Dopamine is necessary because dopamine, I'll explain it to you in the next one. So this is how we do our default mode network of thought. Every hour we do salience. Will you say with me salience? Salience. Here, salience. Please say what I am saying. Salience. Very good. Yeah. Salience is ilakke bala වැඩ කිරීම. Working to a focus. That is what dopamine mediates. So dopamine is a very important neurochemical transmitter in the study process and work process. You must not shoot it out of its best performing range. That's the neuroscience. So there's an optimal curve for dopamine when it does the physiological function of thinking. Will you tap your head and say thinking? Thinking, yeah, thinking. So it does a U curve. For 40 minutes, dopamine will work or think, and wants to come down. So if you are just studying something intensely, you will find that after 40 minutes you want to relax a little, and actually brain is designed by the great designer to think back, check back. And when you are checking back, serotonin does its curve for satiety. Will you say it with me, satiety? Satiety. Satiety means check back and see. Your brain is automatically saying, see how I can improve what I did. Did you understand that? Did I understand this? What did I not understand in that section? Now, if you in between multitask on the screen, go to Instagram and Snapchat and wherever you want to go and do WhatsApping and this, that and the other in that 40 minutes, you lose the designed two curves of dopamine doing salience and serotonin checking back, and it gives you a good sense of good reward. I have done it well. So the thinking and studying process is initiation by dopamine, navigation by dopamine, and successful end conclusion, and then serotonin begins to check back, how do I improve, and good reward. I did it well, these parts I can improve. Say with me, these parts I can improve. So that's the good reward. And who's telling you good reward? Boyfriend? Government? Girlfriend? No, you're saying inside yourself, good, I have done it well, I can improve. That's the purpose of the default mode network of thought that I have put down. If you go on, when you go on with fast digital activities such as digital games, or you're on the screen, watching the screen, multitasking, what happens is dopamine doesn't come down. DA1 physiological receptor shifts to DA2 addictive receptor. And the dopamine is going up, and it has the effect of cocaine. So dopamine addiction is called electronic cocaine. Some people call it digital heroin, but electronic cocaine is a better description, where dopamine inside you has gone up and become addictive, and what it says is do the same thing again and again. Do. So the same thing you will keep on doing with the digital screen or gambling or pornography or whatever it is, you will go on doing the same thing. So that's not a good place to be. You're addicted then, dopamine driven, and serotonin has no way to complete the cycle and get a good sense of reward. Your character begins to change. You become a demanding, nasty fellow. Understood that? Got it? So you have to maintain this balance of your default mode network of thought, not only for curriculum, but for your character also. Can you see that your character will change more you're on the digital screen with fast digital activity? Here is a very important diagram. Now I have brought some Sinhala notes. I will send to Dr. Nilanga the English note. But all of you have got an English note like this also, isn't it? Did you get this? Gen Zs, keep it with you. Gen Zs runners over walls while throwing curveballs. Yeah. So you are the generation Z, and there's a generation younger to you called the Alpha generation. Those fellows think you're archaic, you're old, and you don't know what they know. That will be your younger brother and sister. They're already looking at you and saying dinosaurs, Jurassic Park, old fellows. So while you're calling us those names, they are calling you those names, because they are all the time interacting with TikToking, and they are changing fast. So you have to protect them, because they still will listen to you better than the parents. Did you understand that? So please be close to your younger brother and sister. Teach them some of these things I have told them. At the interaction time, I will ask you to put down your WhatsApp number, and I'll send you a short clip to respond to it. And also you can sit with your younger brother or sister and go through with it, or send it to a friend also. Now this graphic. This is how we think and do. Will you say with me, think and do? Yeah, this is how we think. This is the prefrontal cortex. Top-down regulation is our executive. What else? What else? Executive. Executive. empathic, reflective, creative. Now here we are starting to study initiation, navigation, successful, in conclusion, you don't stop halfway, and reward. So you don't stop studying halfway, you intend to study one chapter, you want to conclude it, isn't it? So don't start a love affair that you can't conclude. What do you think about that? In successful marriage. Why am I saying that? Because when your character gets jittery, your love affair also gets jittery. Don't start something that you will regret. So, in conclusion, reward, that's the decision-making process. This is how we must think and do from our prefrontal cortex. This is called what? Top-down regulation. This is homeostasis, is the other physiological word. When you are too much on the digital screen, or when you are after trauma, post-traumatic stress disorder, sad things come one after the other, then it goes to the bottom-up regulation. The stuff goes through your amygdala. Amygdala is a little almond seed kind of thing at the bottom of the brain, just above your heart palate. And amygdala relates to the hippocampus and hypothalamus. Short memory, painful things, bitter memories. And on your tongue, how many tastes can you find out on your tongue? How many tastes are there on your tongue? Pardon? Sweet, sour, salt, bitter. Most receptors on the tongue are there for bitter taste. Because you don't want to drink poison, isn't it? Those days, in the time of the Sinhala kings, they had a fellow called the Rasavadana Nilame. How many of you have heard about that? Yeah, few fellows who have done history. Okay. And whatever king eats, he must eat first. Because if it's poison, king does not die. Who dies? The Rasavadana Nilame dies. But the point is, on our tongue, bitter taste goes on for a long time, same with the amygdala. Bitter experiences keep repeating. Unfortunately, when you are too digitized, that experience moves to pain, stress, peril. It goes to the amygdala and it recurs again and again for the next hour or two. So you have been on the intensity of a digital screen with fast games, let's say for 40 minutes or 1 hour. When you stop it, the brain doesn't stop. It's still doing what it had been doing, because that's what bottom-up regulation is. You begin to react to whatever goes around you. So when kids are digitally overdriven, any sound they listen to that. Any color they listen to that. They can't study because inattention as well as listening to and responding to everything around them has got awakened. That's called bottom-up regulation. So rather than empathy, what is empathy? Good for me, good for those who love me, good for my present, good for my future. That is empathy. Dyspathy is, who cares? I don't care. Stupid. I don't care. That's a common thing that these kids say, I don't care. And they get very aggressive the way they speak it. I don't know whether you might have been there yourself or your younger brother or sister may be like that. Impulsive, repetitive, reflex action, reactive, prativedi, and that you are moving into stress, thrill and surviving. Then you think pain is pleasure. Then you evoke anti-reward systems, so they cut themselves to feel a thrill. Because after a while, you get dopamine depleted. So a girl came with her mother and parents, they were teachers, and she was going to a good school, well looked after, and mother told me the problem. So I stopped the mother and I asked father to tell the problem. Then the father helplessly looked at the mother, because when problems come, it's the mother who takes up. When the child is getting a trophy, it's the father who's in the front seat, correct? That's Sri Lankan culture, isn't it? When the child is doing well, father is saying everybody, when the child starts smelling, it becomes father's problem. Correct? No? So that shouldn't be. Anyway, in my consultation, I always insist that both parents must come. So my secretary will tell them. Then mother says, "Ayo, my husband is Rotarian club president and that he has to go to the gym and whatever he says, I don't see the child unless both come. And since I don't charge them, I can insist on how it is done. So both parents come and father looks like the lamb taken to the slaughter. He's seated like that. Child is seated like this. Mother is seated like this. Then I take the first questions from the son itself, and then I ask the dad. Usually my first question is, what is his favorite subject at school? Then the father looks helpless and where is he turning? He's turning to the mother, but he doesn't know. So I persecute him for about 5 minutes, give him a rag, for him to understand that when a child gets a problem, father must own the problem. So let the future father speak now. When a child gets a problem, can you see that deadly silence there? Yeah. Telling silence. When a child gets a problem, father must get involved. So in my consultation, I train the dad to own the problem, listen to the child, and I show the child the graphics and so on. It takes about 40 minutes for a consultation, but they come through. The child begins to see the logic of it because it's science. So my slogan to parents is, teach the science, don't fight the kids. So say with me, teach the science, don't fight the kids. So quite a few of my booklets are written for parents to teach with the kids. Some of my booklets are written for teachers and maybe junior doctors. Few of my booklets are academic stuff, which I will give your teachers. They are researched academic stuff. So we have to attend on this problem at all levels: parents, teachers, practicing doctors, psychologists, and of course you are going to be that in the future. So I hope you remember this graphic. It's available in the documents that you were given. This is a very important graphic, and you should be able to explain why we must operate in the prefrontal cortex, decision-making process, top-down regulation, executive, empathic, reflective, creative. Initiate the thing, navigate through, successful in conclusion, don't stop it halfway. That's a good reward, brain will say. So in this process, start with dopamine, conclude with serotonin. If you get into this bottom-up regulation process, cortisols get activated, ACTH gets activated, constantly you're in a stress mode, adrenaline and noradrenaline has got activated, it's quite a problem there. We learned about PTSD, yeah, okay. So treatment for PTSD is quite a bit like how to handle digital toxicity. These are the 7 tracks of our brain. This is a useful study to remember. These tracks develop in the mother's womb, while the fetus is in the mother's womb. So we have to tell the mom to be engaged with the baby while the baby is in the womb. So a working mother has to get time while at work to speak to the child, sing songs, say prayers, and engage with the child while the child is in the womb. While the child is in the womb, child understands whether mom is available or not. Obviously, when the child is born, the child would, but child understands whether mom is engaged or whether mom and dad are having fisticuffs. So at least 1/3 of my series, children who were getting treated for ADHD had stress in the home when the pregnancy was on. So we must teach mom not to have fisticuffs with dad, and baby gets to know dad's nature from how mother feels about the dad. For instance, when mom is sleeping, if the child kicks and the mom wakes up, that means the child is in distress. You have to see an obstetrician. Child and mom are so well bonded When mom is sleeping, the child will never kick the mom awake. Did you understand that? Husband might, but the baby doesn't. Did you hear what I said? So the baby will never awaken a mom who is sleeping, because baby's rhythm is so connected to the mom. So what I am saying is, from mother's womb, your brain tracts are developing. Empathic intuitive tract is how you develop in that tract to know about yourself and think about yourself. So either you will think well of yourself, or you will think, I have no confidence, according to the bonding process that went on. So this continues after birth. So maternal deprivation syndrome, you should have heard, I suppose. If a mother is not giving baby attention, that is called maternal deprivation syndrome. That will affect the child. And is there a paternal deprivation syndrome? There is. But the maternal deprivation syndrome is how a baby feels if the mother is not bonding. It shows up like jitteriness, impulsivity, inattention, and so on. Next track is empathic relational. These are all through the prefrontal cortex. What it means is how a baby begins to relate to others. Look at the world with confidence, or think the world is hostile, depending on the experience the child has with mom and dad and siblings, of course. Next track is the linguistic track. I have already told you, never give a child a screen before the age of 5. Now this is strict medicine. The American Academy of Pediatrics says don't give the child a screen before the age of 3. I have extended it to 5 just for safety. So this is medicine now. Similarly, no amount of alcohol is safe in pregnancy, which means pregnant mothers cannot take alcohol. Can the father take alcohol when the mother is pregnant? What do you think? Very unfair, isn't it? Why should one fellow have the right and the other fellow not have? So, mothers can't take alcohol at all. Every teaspoonful of alcohol by the mother will affect the child's brain tracts, and alcohol inhibits GABA. What is GABA? Gamma aminobutyric acid. GABA is the neurochemical transmitter that gives you empathy. For instance, when you are falling asleep, I always tell parents, be by the child when the child is falling asleep, even if the fellow is 13. That's the time you get mea culpa. What is mea culpa? I did that wrong, that went wrong. That's the time they want to confess something. So GABA gives you a sense of empathy of what went wrong, how others feel. That's what GABA. So where every bit of alcohol has C2H5OH molecules, and they inhibit GABA. So what happens to a fellow? He has taken a teaspoonful of alcohol, he doesn't gather anybody's feelings, and he feels very brave, and he over-imagines about himself, and he thinks he can get away with anything. Politics does the same thing, alcohol also does the same thing. Got it? Okay? Shall we put a thumbs down for alcohol? It doesn't make you smart, it makes you stupid. Yes. Language, before, under the age of 5, don't give the screen. Give many things as possible to improve the language ability. You have heard it anyway, writing, drawing, artwork, all that, all finger activity in the young days with building blocks, clay molding. Then the next track is the logical, managerial, mathematical track. So when a child is crawling, on his knees, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and he knows that's where food is. He's crawling towards the father, isn't it? Of course not. He's crawling towards the mother. Not that he knows 1, 2, 3, 4. He doesn't know. But he knows the measured mathematical movement. Did you understand that? So from young days they must have measured mathematically things that they become cognizant, they can do. That is why those beads on the playpen, or what do you call that thing? බෝල එකේ හැට මෙහෙට දාන්න පුළුවන්. මොකද ඒකට නමක් තියෙනවනේ. You can, so when they do this, ball at a time, automatically it comes to 10. They don't know to say 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's a mathematical movement. Mathematical tracks, management tracks get developed. So by the time 3 and 4, they must have their own cupboard, own things, and where to put the ball, where to put the bat. So they must be trained in management from young days. Get them involved in house chores. Tell them you have to arrange your bed, you have to arrange your room, and whatnot, yes. Sometimes you have to tell this to the 40-year-old male child also, you know. Some homes have a 40-year-old male child. What's the fellow's name? Hoopsand. I mean husband. So he also has to be told these things if he has not been brought up properly. So logical management track. These are our work tracks. Do work. Then we have 3 other tracks which all of us have. They are the show tracks. Kinesthetic movement, acoustic, we all need it, and the visual. What happens, what the screen does is, the show tracks wire up, inhibiting the do work tracks. So the child is all the time jittery, and he has become a showman. He's doing TikToking, he's showing things and play acting and so on, without doing his studies. If he continues like this, showing up without working, he might get into a profession like politics, isn't it? What do you think? Ask your neighbor and see. No work done, but showing up. So that's the effect of the screen. If the child wires up too much kinesthetic, that is what ADHD is. Every sound movement affects them, and the visual. About music, this I have to say, if you yourself, from young days, you are trained to use a flute, a violin, a guitar, where you make music, brain becomes brilliant. Did you understand that? Playing a guitar and singing, or playing keyboards and singing, a vibration of strings of an instrument is very brain developing for language and for mathematical management calculations. Did you understand that? So I strongly recommend everyone to get on to some musical instruments as young as possible. Yes. Now I think we should write down. I've spoken for about 40 minutes, isn't it? That's about your attention span. Let me see what the next slide is. Same 7 brain tracks that you saw on the graphic. Intrapersonal, empathic, intuitive, interpersonal, empathic, relational, linguistic, logical, mathematical, planning, kinesthetic, auditory, and the visual. Can you please take down that document that you can fill up and return to me? Put your name down document. It's in Sinhala and English, I think. Everybody got that document? Johan, I will also need a document. The fill up and give me back document. Document set එකක් තියෙනවද මට ගෙනත් දෙන්න. Put your name down. Put your WhatsApp number down. And if you know of a doctor's WhatsApp number, please put it down. Are there any students here, your parent is a doctor? Please meet me before you go. I have a document to give them. So start filling this. This is a little mid-time exercise. Name, address is not necessary, your WhatsApp number, and your Yeah, if you want your parents' WhatsApp number or your, you might know a medical doctor, isn't it? Family practitioner. Just say doctor and put the WhatsApp number. Part of my program is always to educate doctors not to prescribe drugs for attention deficit and ADHD, but to use empathic motor therapy. Every student population I lecture to, I ask them to put down a doctor's number that you may know. Okay? Name, your WhatsApp, and a doctor's WhatsApp if you know. Even your A-level teacher's WhatsApp is helpful. We mobilize teachers and give them enough tools to tell their teachers how to handle jittery children without embarrassing them. In Germany and Singapore, teachers are paid the same salary as consultant doctors. So top-notch people choose the teaching profession because their salaries are very good. In our country, teachers are paid very low salaries. In our time, they would recruit to medical faculty as teachers and academics, lecturers, only those who have a first class or second upper. Nowadays, such fellows don't join medical faculty as lecturers. Why? Why do you think? Because they have not much channel practice. And doctors can't survive without channel practice. Even when they get 35,000, that is also contested. What to do? I'm encouraging you to think, and somehow we must make policy in our nation to pay teachers well, so that very able people will join the teaching profession and become lecturers in our universities, isn't it? Yeah, in whatever faculty. Then I have put this down. I have no problem with my digital behavior. Cut off the children thing. Be honest about it, yes or no. Is your digital behavior excess or not? Then I have put down saying age of child concern. Do you have a sibling, younger brother or sister, whom you think has a problem with digital behavior, too much on the screen? I had a case, parents came to me and they said, "Doctor, we don't know what to do because the fellow is on the screen so much, and what parents do is wait till about 1 in the night and pull out the main switch trip. Then he thinks it's a power failure, otherwise can't stop the fellow." So sometimes it gets that bad. What I normally tell parents is, if they have a digital gadget for study, don't allow it to be taken to the bedroom. So in many Western countries there is practice that kids are not allowed to take their smart gadget to the dormitory at sleeping time. Now you are not kids, you are adults. So what you do with your digital gadget is your peril or your promotion. So parents can't be telling you don't take your smartphone to the room because you are university students. But till A-level, parents must insist on this. What do you say? They must not be allowed to take their digital gadget to the bedroom. මොකද කියන්නේ? ඒකට ඡන්දයක් දානවද නැද්ද? No digital gadgets in the bedroom till you finish your A-level. I think it's prudence, isn't it? Prudence. After the last online study class or whatever it is, remove it. We have a thing on while online A lot of online studies or tuition now goes on even at 10 o'clock, which is very unwise. We have to somehow get parents to understand being online with a tuition class after 9 p.m. is counterproductive. Child is not gaining much. Somehow do your online classes before 6 p.m. but if you can't help, certainly before 9 p.m. I told you the science. If melatonin is interfered with, your sleep is interfered with, your memory will suffer. I hope you are filling up while I am talking. Age of the child will refer to whether you have a sibling, male or female. You put down MOI for the person whom you think is affected by the digital screen. So these are practical exercise to make what you heard immediately applicable in your thinking. So after they finish their psychology 3 years, will they do a clinical psychology program or how will they get employment? Some of them will.
Clinical and counseling.
Right.
And some to development.
Right.
But others will go on away.
Yeah. So you deal with immediately after A-level? Students come immediately. Do O-level students also come here? No. Students after A-level.
After A-levels and some of them come after foundation.
Foundation course.
That's also.
Right. Yeah. Open University, I gave a lecture there. They are trying to get a clinical psychology course going. Obstruction for that is our profession. We need clinical psychologists, but this habit of prescribing drugs is such an addiction. So our profession, we can't think of clinical psychology and counsel instead of drugs. So we have to change the mind of doctors. For this field and even for many other fields now. Recent research is out saying that this theory about chemical imbalance or depression is completely out, new research, and they are saying this serotonin inhibitors are useless, in fact counterproductive, which I knew for a long time, but now last week major research is out. Yeah. Okay, then I'm thinking of the person whom you said is digitally affected. How is he handling school life? What age was the child exposed to digital screen, cartoons or digital screen? You can put your own age even. When did you first get onto cartoons and digital screen? Intensely. Age 3, 2, in your mother's womb. Mother's digital activity affects the fetal brain through prostaglandins. How many of you have heard of prostaglandins? According to prostaglandin secretion, different areas of the brain will wire up. So if the mother is on thrilling, violent, risk, peril, digital activity, the child will wire up those things in the brain. That's one reason for ADHD. Cartoon time for a day. So this is probably in your profession, if you go to clinical counseling, isn't it? This is a thing that you have to ask, how long are you on the screen for a while? What specific cartoon affects most? So some cartoons are very violent, lots of pixels are consumed. So the effect of the cartoon depends on the pixel movement, how much pixels get into your brain in a second. I'm using how much pixels in a second affects the retina. So the strongest stimulation of the brain is through our own retina. That's the thing. That's why people call this electronic cocaine, because the effect on dopamine addiction is so great by the digital screen. Food time, often kids with digital addiction, they don't eat properly. They eat with the screen and they eat at any time. They prefer junk food. because if you take a proper rice and curry meal, it has the same effect on dopamine addiction like it has on the alcoholic. You know, the alcoholic fellow doesn't want to eat properly, isn't it? He will put a bulak vita and smoke a cigarette and carry on. Little fellows also learn, if they eat a proper meal, that dopaminergic energy and addiction and drive high comes down. So they keep whacking, tippy tips and whatever without taking a proper meal. So part of prevention, I'll come to that, is the family sits together for the meal and children must be the focus of the talk. Don't use any critical stuff while at meal. Meal time is oxytocin time, happy time, communication time. It must be all about the child, and never ask the child about painful things like mathematics. Speak to the child, the happy things, and then get to mathematics after the belly is full. Yeah. Food time, problems, too long. So many parents put the screen on, or a nanny or a help put the screen on, and the child is looking at the screen, and you have to run around everywhere. Fellow is also running around, or he's on the screen, and food is like Sanat Jayasuri has played a cricket innings, it's everywhere, and fellow is not concentrating on his food. So basic advice, from day dot, the time the child is able to eat, he must eat his own food. If he uses his finger, this move like writing letters. So children mixing food and themselves eating is the most brain developing activity. Will you repeat with me? Children mixing food and eating with their own fingers is the most brain brilliant activity. So it can be carried on if the habit is developed early. You can carry on. Proper food, home cooked food, regular meal times, same table and chair, parents as much as possible sitting down with the kids, no eating food in the room. I have not done that, because your older sisters and brothers, you have to set a good example for your little fellow, little Mali and Nangi, and don't be selfish. Tell your neighbor, don't be selfish. You gotta live for yourself. You have to think of others. Are you saying these things? Yeah. Because this digitized behavior has made people utterly selfish. They think of themselves only. Change this character, okay? What else have we got to fill up? Sleep time. How is your sleep time? And if you are talking about someone in that discussion, is sleep affected? I had a fellow coming from a well-known school. He's unkept. Konde pirla naha. And maru karanne naha. For 3-4 days he goes like that. He goes to sleep with the laptop on his lap, falling asleep, wakes up playing games. That's extreme case. So kids must not go there. How is your sleep? Do you sleep well? A sign of sleeping well is having dreams. So you have heard of REM sleep and NREM sleep? Yes. So REM sleep is when you see dreams. NREM is when you don't see dreams. Dreams usually start at about 1:30. To have a good dream time, you must be sleeping at least by 11:30 and no digital activity after 10 o'clock. And if you get up in the night and look at your smartphone, the blue light will affect your sleep rhythm. But if you just get up in the night and go back to sleep, the dream will continue from where the dream stopped. That's how the brain works. So initially you will have a little bad dream, like a little bad dream. What might be a bad dream? That dialogue has said data has got 4 times costly, that kind of bad dream. Or a daughter-in-law finds that mother-in-law comes to her house for 6 months, bad dreams. You must wake up with a good dream. If your last dream when you wake up at 5 or whatever time is unpleasant, that means your sleep is disturbed. Will you give me a wave on this? Yeah. Now, recent research shows that even paracetamol the brand name is Panadol, but the proper name is paracetamol, has an effect on the brain. Being an analgesic, if a mother takes 2 paracetamols and tries to correct a child, she will be harsher than normal. Because the analgesia of the paracetamol also makes your empathy low. Now, these things we have not known before. That's just an example how your behavioral things can be affected by simple things that we did not think too much about. So that's sleep. What digital games do you play? Have you been treated with methylphenidate or a stimulant for ADHD? Yes or no, just put down so that I get a bit of a percentage on the cohort, okay? You won't be quoted, it will just get added to my statistical bank. Why did you stop the drug? Did sleep get worse or you got aggressive? Did studies improve with the drug? Has the school complained about the student? Okay, have you heard of ADHD? Obviously yes, because you are psychology students. My last line is, mark from 0 to 5, this presentation you heard. Did you hear that? Last line is, give me some marks, 0 to 5. I'll ask our staff to collect this soon. So we have to get on to the second part. We have a lot more to cover.